Alright, I've already talked about the Famicom disk system in the past, but I might as well give a bit of a refresher. It was an add-on to the Famicom that played floppy disks instead of cartridges. These floppy disks had various advantages over cartridges, and included features like save files, better sound capabilities, more storage, and so on and so forth. One of the very first games to show off the powers of the disk system was none other than The Legend of Zelda. Now, literally everyone already knows about Zelda, about its importance and its impact and all that. It's such a well-covered topic that I'm barely going to talk about it in this video. It was one of the best-selling games on the disk system, so Nintendo knew it was a no-brainer to make a follow-up. But while the sequel would take a bit longer to make and be drastically different from its predecessor, there was another game that was directly built off of Zelda 1, which went down a different path from both. This brings us to the Mysterious Murasame Castle, which only released 2 months after Zelda, which goes to show how much easier it was to work with floppy disks, especially considering none of the original Zelda team even worked on this game. No Miyamoto, no Takashi Tezuka, no Toshihiko Nakago, none of those guys. The only development link is the composer, Koji Kondo. Of course, that brings up the question, who did work on this game? Well, the director was none other than Minoru Maeda. And if you know anything about Minoru Maeda, then you definitely don't know him as an important guy at Nintendo. You know him as an animator on Dragon Ball. So how did he end up directing a Nintendo game? Well, Nintendo was hiring animators from prolific studios, like Yoshi Kotabe, who was brought in to redesign Mario. But that's, in line with his work. Also, unlike Kotabe, who left animation to work with Nintendo, Maeda kept working on Dragon Ball during this time. Then again, he didn't leave the video game industry either, but we can talk about that later. As for the rest of the development team, it seems likely that programming was handed off to Human Entertainment, which must have been a breath of fresh air for them since they were mostly stuck making Power Pad games and going uncredited for them.
What?!
They were uncredited for this game too though, and the only reason we know this fact is because of an interview with Suda51. Yeah, you know Suda51, right? The creator of No More Heroes? He originally got his start in game development at Human Entertainment, but he didn't start there until long after Murasame Castle released, so honestly, it's up in the air whether or not this fact is true. Anyways, while Murasame Castle was a relative success on the disk system, it never came to the NES, it never received a follow-up, and it didn't leave Japan for over 25 years. That is, until it was announced during San Diego Comic-Con of 2014 that the game would be coming to the West on August 24th of that year, exclusively to 3DS Virtual Console. Not the Wii, not the Wii U, only the 3DS.
But this game was originally released for the Famicom system.
And worked on by Mr. Miyamoto. Yeah.
You know what that means, right? It means that I, and possibly you as well, can officially play this on American hardware. And even though the 3DS is such a healthy and thriving and successful system, let's take a brief look at the eShop page, just for fun. Well, here it is, in all of its digital-only glory, going for $5, the standard price of NES games. It was given an ESRB rating for the first time, and saw over 200 reviews in its life, retaining a positive average score of 4.5 stars. And that's enough messing around here. Let's actually get into the game. Hey, you wanna know what's interesting about the game's story? Nothing, I don't give a shit. So let's just talk about the gameplay. While it does feel familiar if you played The Legend of Zelda, the differences become apparent right away. While Zelda is an adventure game that lets you explore Hyrule at your own pace, the Mysterious Murasame Castle is an action game that sees you clearing enemies from level to level. Zelda's enemies are fairly simple, and don't really get in the way until the later half of the game. Mysterious Murasame Castle's enemies are much quicker, and they pile tons of them on you. You have to have quick reflexes to clear everything out of the way and get through the stages. It's a very fast-paced game in comparison. To attack enemies, you have a simple katana that you can swing in front of you to either take out your foes or use projectiles if nothing's in front of you. The projectiles you dish out, along with other things, are determined by what power-ups you collect. You'll get these power-ups by either opening presents or killing tanukis. Don't let PETA know about this game. You start off the game with these dinky-ass throwing knives, which can be upgraded to either windmill shurikens or fireballs. The windmill shurikens have the furthest reach, but the fireballs will negate enemy projectiles. However, both of them use ammunition, and if you use it all up, you're back to throwing knives. But if you have knives, then you can't use up ammunition, so it's good to build it up by killing enemies before you recollect another power-up. There's also 2 pairs of flip-flops. What, are these projectiles too? Well, no. One of them just increases your speed, and the other lets you walk on water. And there's also 2 bows that either speed up your projectiles, or double the amount you shoot. But you should never use the double shot, because it completely negates a much better set of power-ups, the shogi pieces. There are 3 of them. The king piece that shoots 3 in front of you, the bishop that shoots 2 diagonally, and the rook that shoots in all directions, which I found to be very situational. Like, yeah, it's cool that it can shoot behind you, but I'd rather just turn around and not be a bitch. Finally, there are 2 special items that are assigned to the B button. One you always start the game off with is the blue scroll, which allows you to turn invisible for an amount of time. You can only use your sword, but you don't take any damage for a few seconds. The other is a lightning bolt, which is just a screen nuke, but it's a screen nuke that you will desperately need sometimes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The game's graphics are very simple, which is in line with early NES games. But the music is really good and takes advantage of the Famicom Disk System's capabilities. It definitely fits with Koji Kondo's other works. Outside of the music, this is a very simple game. And considering how little text there is, that just makes me wonder, why wasn't this game brought to the NES? The soundtrack really can't be much of an excuse, as many games were able to work around the sound limitations. Is it because the game's too Japanese? Maybe. That's a really stupid excuse. I don't know why that would have been an issue. It's not like games and media were completely blind to the East. It's not like you couldn't change some things to be more understandable. Well, maybe it was because of the difficulty. I mean, the game is relatively fair. Death respawns you on that screen, and if you get a game over, you're only sent back to the beginning of an area. Not only are there plenty of health pickups littered around the stages, but leaving and coming back to an area respawns the present boxes, so you can keep going back to health pickup you find. But like I said before, this is a very fast-paced game. And with the amount of ninjas running around, the amount of fireballs and shurikens and bombs and bullshit going after you, it's only natural that you will die a lot in this game. I mean, the first area is nothing to sneeze at. It's pretty easy to get a handle for how the game plays in this first stage. And at the end of it, you're treated to a minigame, where you can earn extra lives. Of course, you probably wouldn't know that, so your run through of the minigame will probably look like this. And then right after that, you head into the nearest castle. The castles are a lot more maze-like, and have different branching paths. Only one of them leads to the boss, but others lead to princesses that you can save to get a 1-up. And before we move on, keep your healing lady jokes out of my comment section, please and thank you. There are quite a few unique enemies in these castles though, like these samurai who lock the doors. You can only hit them when their sword is raised up, but they only raise their sword when they're about to attack you, which they can only do when you're right in front of them. They're simple but really cool. There's quite a bit of anticipation that builds up right when you're about to approach them. There's also these guys that usually block the main path and shoot lightning bolts. They seem pretty intimidating, but if you have any of the shogi pieces, they go down very easily. And honestly, the boss is really nothing to write home about. It's kind of just like the mini bosses from the courtyard. As long as you keep moving, you're not gonna get hurt. But right away things ramp up in the second area. Here they start introducing landmines, enemies that explode, and a lot more fireball enemies. And since you can't parry fireballs, you just have to get out of the way. This is also where the game starts throwing more interesting areas at you, like these cliffsides with bandits, and these foresty areas with tengu. The tengu are probably some of the most annoying enemies in the game. They fly around in these stupid fucking tornadoes you can't hit, they shoot tornadoes that you can't hit. They're assholes. In the second castle, they introduce this fucking psycho with a spear that he just swings around. You can't hit him unless the spear is facing away from you, but he spins so fast that you can barely get a hit in. And this boss is a lot more fucked. Not only does he shoot bombs, but those bombs spawn ninjas. I don't even want to know how that works. Well, thankfully you can leave the room at any time, which means you can find a health pickup, or a power-up you think might work better, or go save another princess to get an extra— oh my god! Yeah, on random occasions, princesses will turn into these giant Oni masks that have a bajillion health points and constantly pursue you throughout every room. So, maybe saving princesses isn't always great. The third area looks pretty cool, but god damn, I always get tripped up at this level. There's so many of these mini-boss enemies that shoot bombs or fireballs. They're all over the place. But there's a trick to getting around them. You see, they usually spawn at an exit, so if you're in an area with multiple exits, then you can go to the exit that you don't want to go to, have the boss spawn there, and then go to the exit you do want to go into. The only problem is if you go back, then you actually have to fight the boss. This third castle wouldn't be so bad if it didn't introduce these stupid fucking fire guys. They have a fire shield and throw fireballs at you, and they block such a big portion of the room, so it's really hard to get past them most of the time. But you usually can't even hit them, because the rotating fire shield will usually block out one of your projectiles, so you gotta do some advanced trigonometry bullshit just to calculate the exact right time and angle to shoot your shot. And on top of that, they start putting fireballs in the rooms with the electric guys. It was manageable at the beginning, but this is just stupid. This boss can be pretty tough, as he can teleport and has decoys, but you can just use lightning to immediately hurt and reveal the real one. This fourth level though is hell. Just take everything I've complained about so far, crank it up to the max, and you have the fourth level of this game. Also, it's long and has tons of loops and dead ends. I hardly ever make it through this level within the time limit. And yes, there is a time limit. As if that ever actually becomes important before you fucking die. Oh, but if you think this level is bad, the castle is somehow worse. It's nothing but room after room with either spear guys or fire guys or electric guys. Half the enemies are invisible, some of them blow up. There's barely any good power-ups, and it's probably by now that you'll realize that this game was not made for the 3DS. So you'll probably just leave this game with an unfinished file and cramped hands. Just play it on an emulator, you coward. This boss has to be one of the hardest on the NES. And it's the only female lord in the game. How progressive. All she does is shoot these things that go out in 8 directions, and they're indestructible. So not only is it hell to actually maneuver around this shit, but you can never actually get it hidden. But if by some miracle you do, then you move on to the final level of the game. Alright, I know I've complained a lot about this game, but I really do like it. It has a lot of classic Nintendo charm, and it's good to have a short little challenging experience. You know, people back in the NES days ate this shit up. And if this game did release back then, I think it would be regarded as a classic in the same light as Mario and Zelda and Metroid. But it still bugs me because I really don't see why this game couldn't have been released back then. It's not like there was anything wrong with the contents of this game, right? Murasame Castle has pools of blood everywhere, is lined with skulls, and has a bunch of demons running around. If I were to guess the reason why this game was never localized, it's probably because of this last area. Even though, you could probably just change the tile set, right? I don't know, I've never made an NES game. But as cool as this all looks, and as much as the music kicks absolute ass, I mean, just listen to this shit. I'd say this place is quite a bit easier than the last level. Don't get me wrong, it's still pretty hard, but all the demons are just reskins of the more basic ninjas. All these mini-bosses are mini-bosses that we've already seen before. You're used to this shit by this point. These gatekeeper enemies are new and unique, but they really don't get easier than this. No, what's really difficult about this place is the layout. Murasame Castle is more of a maze than any previous area, so be prepared for a lot of backtracking. At the very end of it all is Murasame itself, which is this giant lion statue thing. Even though I said the 4th boss was the hardest, Murasame will definitely give you a run for your money. He has these projectiles that shoot back at you when they hit the wall, but the pattern is pretty easy to get down. Or maybe you'll just be so accustomed to how this game feels at this point that of course it does. But this guy isn't the final boss. No, the final boss is a set of annoying ass rooms you have to maneuver through. And then you get to the final boss, which is this giant ghostly space alien that's like the source of all the evil power. This space is actually a lot easier, especially if you have any power up at all. But once you defeat him, you've finally beaten the game. Just for the game to throw you right back into hard mode. At least I think it's hard mode. Yeah, people say that the game immediately moves on to hard mode, but just looking at it, I don't see any immediate differences other than the tile sets. But I might as well play through it just to make sure nothing's different. It's not. So yeah, that's Mysterious Murasame Castle. It's a great game, and a lot of you should play it, and a lot of you should be able to play it. even though it's only available on a semi-modern console's online store, which is about to shut down in 2 months as of the time this video comes out. Well, get it while you can.
Just play it on an emulator, you coward.
You know, even though there's no follow-up to this game at all, really, that's not to say that Nintendo has completely forgotten about this game. The first piece of Murasame Castle content after the original game was a TV special. Yes, Murasame Castle got on TV before Zelda did. Let that sink in.
Well, excuse.
But yeah, this is so weird. It was live action, performed by a Japanese pop idol group called Onyanko Club. It aired through the show Getsuyu Drama Land in December 1986, and according to the internet, it's kind of lost. I can't find it anywhere. It's not on YouTube, it's not on the Internet Archive, it's not on Nico Video. I'm pretty sure the only way to watch this is through this DVD box collection released in 2005. As of the time this video comes out, no one has had the money or the balls to track down a copy of this thing. But we know it exists, so it's not a matter of if it'll appear online, it's a matter of when, right? Right? Anyways, after 1986, Nintendo would completely ignore the series for over a decade. But starting in 2004, Murasame Castle gets not only the most prominent representation, but also the weirdest representation out of any legacy Nintendo game. It was re-released on Game Boy Advance as part of the Famicom Mini Collection, and the game's floppy disk appears as a collectible treasure in Pikmin 2. Don't worry, the cameo appearances only get weirder as we keep going. The main character Takamaru was featured as a major character in Captain Rainbow. Captain Rainbow is all about featuring obscure Nintendo characters, and being a Japan-only Wii game developed by Skip, it's only natural that the game itself is relatively obscure. I say relatively because I'm sure you've heard about it already. So your quest with Takamaru involves him trying to get with Crazy Tracy from Link's Awakening, but he can't talk to her because he's really scared of women. Wow, he's just like me, for real. I think this is actually a pretty clever reference to the princesses in the original game, and how you, the player, might have been too scared to risk saving them just to run into this freak. So anyway, to help him gain confidence, we have to steal one of Crazy Tracy's bras, put it on a mannequin, and shove Takamaru's face in it. Yeah, this game's weird as fuck. Would that even work? How the fuck am I supposed to know? Look at me, I run a YouTube channel. But yeah, this game is really cool. I should probably make a video about it. If you thought that appearance was pretty big, get ready for this one. The Mysterious Murasame Castle is also represented in Samurai Warrior 3. At this time, the Dynasty Warriors series as a whole, on consoles, always skipped out on Nintendo. Samurai Warriors 3 was the very first game in the series to release on a Nintendo console. So I guess they really wanted to mark this as a special occasion, as there's an entire mode dedicated to the Mysterious Murasame Castle. It follows its own story separate from the base game. Takamaru is a playable character, and he's unlockable in the other modes. Now that I think about it, this probably paved the way for the much bigger crossover spin-offs that we've seen over the years, like Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors. So it's really cool it all started with this game. Too bad this game fucking sucks. I'm sorry, I normally get a good amount of footage to use from these games and actually show that I've, played them. But this game is so slow, it's unbearable. If you want to see how this game pans out, you can just watch a walkthrough on YouTube in double speed. But seriously though, this game should have been unacceptable. Hyrule Warriors is faster than this. And I played the 3DS version. On this 3DS. Murasame Castle also appears as a microgame in WarioWare DIY, only in the Japanese version. The game's also represented as a theme park attraction in Nintendo Land on the Wii U. All I can say is that it looks interesting. You got like flick shurikens at ninjas, but I don't have a Wii U, so I can't play the game. And most recently as a part of a sound effect in Mario Maker 2. Which doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, he didn't get a costume in 1, but in 2, the game where costumes are gutted and eviscerated, he's the only other game that actually gets a reference. And it's unlike anything in the previous game. I actually remember seeing this in the Mario Maker 2 Direct and being like, holy shit! Because I had played the game by then. But of course, the big thing we have to talk about is the game's representation in Smash. Starting with Brawl, they added the main theme to the soundtrack, and Takamaru as a sticker. In Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U, he got an all-new remix, and he was fully added to the game as an assist trophy. Sakurai has gone on record saying that he wanted to make Takamaru a full fighter for the game, but he ended up not going through with it because of the game's obscurity in the West. Smash 4 was mostly developed before the release of the 3DS Virtual Console version, so yeah, I guess that's fair. But that means in Smash Ultimate, he could have totally added Takamaru as a fighter. He didn't. And he cited the exact same thing, even though the game has released in the West. Sure, Smash Ultimate is a Switch game, and the only way Western players can play Murasame Castle is through a console that's not of the current generation. But come on, Takamaru would be an amazing fighter for Smash. I think so, at least. He's much more realizable than other classic Nintendo picks, even some that I would really love to see. But yeah, I can definitely see how the game's availability is a bit of an issue, since it's only on the 3DS in America, and it's not on Switch at all. Hey, what's up with that? It's not on the American NES Online app, it's not on the Famicom Online app, where is it? It seems like Sakurai shares the same sentiment with the series as Nintendo. They're not afraid to show it quite a bit of love, but without new games or availability, it's not worth shit. But that just makes me wonder, where's a sequel, or reboots, or anything? Usually when it comes to Nintendo, the series creators and directors are often heavily involved with the future of their respective series. But Minoru Maeda was never really a big part of Nintendo. He did still do work for them. He was supposedly a storyboard artist for Famicom Mukashibanashi Yuyuki. He was also one of the illustrators for Ocarina of Time. But since then, he's been going around to different animation studios, which still do work in games as recent as 2016 with... Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. But I think as long as he's not with Nintendo, there might not be a new game in the series. Listen, I'm not saying it's impossible for the series to come back without him. I'm saying that this is usually the case when it comes to Nintendo. I could talk about who I would want to continue the series, but at that point I'd just be dragging out the script, and I really don't have much to say outside of that. So yeah, that's about it for me. Thanks for making it to the end of this video. As of the time this video comes out, I'm currently sitting at 55 subscribers, which is really cool that there are at least 54 people out there who support me. You know, I'm still pretty sure that I don't really want to become a YouTuber, but even so, it's cool that I have this place to really express myself And you know, since I'm in such a good mood, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say the YouTuber thing. But I couldn't live with myself if I just said it off the top of my head, so I wrote it down on this scroll. Alright. So, be sure